Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be giving you guys a detailed, in-depth guide on how to kill a tier 4 eman and a cheap budget guide. I've watched a bunch of different guides to try and see what the best way to kill a tier 4 eman boss on a budget would be, and I came up with this strategy. In this video, you won't be needing an E-Drag, a Hyperion, an Ender Artifact, or any of that expensive stuff. And unlike a lot of other videos, you also won't be needing an overflux. I know that a lot of people do not like doing Sven Slayer, and having to get to Sven level 7 to do Enderman Slayer just feels like a hassle. Do note that this video may be a little bit fast paced, especially in the setup. If you ever feel lost, then just refer to the timestamps that are in the description, or leave a comment because I'm actively checking to see if anybody needs any help, and I will try to help as many people as possible. Firstly, before we get into the specific items, I just want to point a couple of things out. Firstly, I recommend buying your Final Destination, Atom Split, and Enderman pet right after an Aatrox mare, because right after he goes out of office, all the prices of those items drop because people are selling them, because most people buy it for Aatrox, but if you buy it after, you can get it for cheaper. This is how I'm able to get all of the items that will be listed in under 500 million coins, and if you guys are on a budget, I really would recommend doing this. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the different items. Okay, so first up, I just want to talk about my stats. So I have 1000 magical power and combat 32, but before that scares you off, I'd recommend having at least combat 40, and with combat 32, I was able to do this boss with about 700 to 750 magical power. I just took out a bunch of talismans and I just was able to do it, and it was almost as fast, but it was a good bit slower than how I'm able to do it with 1000 magical power, and it was a lot harder because the boss was able to damage me more over time, but it is possible to do it with about 700 magical power. I'd recommend getting at least that and then getting more, but if your combat level is higher, like around 40 to 50, then you don't need as much magical power, but I'd still recommend getting 700 or so just for like in future, because you're gonna want to have more magical power for other things. Additionally, in your talismans, I'd recommend having a vampire dentist relic, a healing ring, a pocket espresso machine, a handy blood chalice, and a soul flow pile. All of these will kind of help you to survive in the boss. The healing ring and the vampire dentist relic will help you with healing and survivability, and the pocket espresso machine, handy blood chalice, and soul flow pile will help you more mana, ferocity, and intelligence during the fight, which will all help you. These are pretty cheap talismans, except for the vampire dentist relic, but it is worth to get these. I was able to do it without the vampire dentist relic though, so keep that in mind. Okay, and with that out of the way, let's get into the armor, weapons, and others. For my armor, I have a full set of Final Destination armor that's ancient with normal and fuming hot potato books, and on 3 of the pieces I have wisdom 5, and on my helmet, but it can be any piece, I have refrigerate 5. Additionally, I do have mana vampire 6 on all 4 of my pieces. This basically means that 12% of the mana that I use gets converted into HP, and since I'm going to be using a lot of mana during the boss, I just found that this would help me a lot. Additionally, it is worth noting that on the chest plate and the boots, I have G6 P6. This isn't really needed, but I just got my pieces with them, so that just helped. I also have 100,000 kills on 2 of my pieces and 75,000 on the other 2. I was able to do this when all of them had the 75,000 kill bonus. You can probably do this with 50,000, but just know that you might need to have like more magical power or more of different stats to be able to do the boss at the same easy difficulty. For my equipment, I have 3 strengthened molten equipment, and I have a strengthened dragon fade cloak. The cloak has 3 times stats while you're on the end, so that's why I use it. But if you already have a molten cloak or some other cloak that has a bunch of different attributes, then make sure to go ahead and use that. If possible, try to get your vitality attribute up on the other pieces of molten, because having like just vitality 5 on all 3 pieces will just help you a lot in the boss, because an extra almost 50 vitality just makes you heal so much more. I'm not able to use vitality because this profile is kind of scuffed, and I'm able to do just fine, but it just will help you a lot if you're able to. For my pet, I have a level 100 mythic Enderman, and this can also be a level 100 epic Enderman pet if you can't afford this. It's about 30 million coins on the auction house, but if you're gonna get that and you're on a budget, I'd recommend trying to get like one that's not level 100 and leveling it up, because it'll be a lot cheaper that way. I also have a dwarf turtle shellman on this. This is the best pet item to have, because sometimes knockback from the voidgloom boss can mess you up, especially with the method that I'm going to be showing you later. On my atom split, I have a lot lot of enchantments and it does seem intimidating, but I got this for 160 mil after Aatrox was gone, and I found that that's actually a very consistent price for this. It's a fabled recomped Atom Split with Fumings and an Art of War, all flawless gemstones, ultimate wise 5, and some notable enchants that are on here are Critical 6, Ender Flare 6, Execute 5, Fire Aspect 3, Giant Killer 6, Lethality 6, Sharpness 6, Siphon 4, Vampirism 6, Venomous 5, and Thunderlord 7. I also put a Jasper Power Scroll on this, but that is not really needed. You're able to do it without it. It just gives a little extra damage, which is why I have it. I have an Aspect of the Void here. You can have an Aspect at the end. It works the same. I just use this because I like Aspect of the Void. You're going to want a Wand of Atonement with Ultimate Wise 5, and you're going to realize when you're doing bosses that it's really important to always have this when you're hitting the boss, because if you don't, the boss is just going to shred you faster than you can heal. I have a Sword of Bad Health, and this is partially one of the reasons why Wand of Atonement is so helpful, because you're going to be using 5% of your max health very often, because the extra 100 or so strength that you get is just so useful. I have a Reaper Scythe here that's Ultimate Wise 5 and has a bunch of tank zombies. I've done about 100 tier 4s with this setup so far, and not a single tank zombie has died, so you're fine with just having 3 souls if you don't want all of these. I just have these because in the past I've had bad experiences where my tank zombies would just die for no reason, but I think it's perfectly fine now. I have a Florid Zombie Sword with Ultimate Wise 5, and it's just a good item to have when you're just panicking, so you just have like a place to panic heal. And finally, I have a Withered Ragnarok Axe that's recommed, Withered, Fumings, Art of War, and a Fine Jasper. You don't need an Art of War on this. I just bought it with it, so obviously I would just keep it like that. Also, I think you can put a Jasper Power Scroll on this. I didn't realize that, but I don't have it. If you want to, you can put it on there. It's not completely needed though. And with that seems like a lot of items, but that really is it. If you do have an overflux that you are using, it's also worth noting that you can use a Fire Veil wand. I'll tell you when you would use this, but this just will help with extra DPS. But if you don't have an overflux, you just won't have enough mana to use this. And I figured that out the hard way. Okay, now let's go into a demo run so I can show you guys how to do the boss. And I'm going to be giving some different notes and my thoughts throughout the boss so that hopefully you guys are able to learn it easier and you have an easier time while doing this. Really quickly though, I'd just like to mention that I'm in a race with this kid to 10,000 subscribers. And once we beat him, I'm going to be giving away 500 million coins in my Discord server, which is linked in the description. He is currently ahead of me by almost 600 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys would leave a like and subscribe to this video. Every bit of support that I get just helps a lot. Now, without further ado, let's get into the boss. Alright, so as the boss spawns, I quickly swap to my Reaper Scythe and I spawn my tank zombies. Then I step back to make sure that the boss can't hit me because it does a lot of damage in its Hitsphase. The server lags a bit, but it's fine. I swap to my Sword of Bad Health, use it, then my Wand of Atonement, and then I teleport with my Aspect of the Void, right click with my Atom Split Katana, and start hitting the boss. You want to make sure that you're right clicking with every single item, and in the Hitsphase when it's ending and the boss isn't aggroed on you, it's good to kind of take it slow so that you make sure you click everything. I use my Aspect of the Void because it buffs damage with the Enderman pet. Make sure to always watch your health while hitting the boss, and you can see the bar with the Wand of Atonement, and as it's about to run out, I swap to my Sword of Bad Health, Wand of Atonement, and Atom Split again. Again, you want to make sure you're clicking all of the items because if not, you're going to lose out on either damage or health regen. As the boss goes into a laser phase, I make sure to step back, and the lasers always spawn in a specific rotation as you see, and you want to make sure you don't get hit by these lasers. I use my Ragnarok Axe and I'm jumping over the lasers, and the reason why you don't want to get hit by the lasers is that whenever you get hit by the lasers, it reduces your vitality and your mana regen. This is something that I haven't seen any other creator mention, but it really is important when you don't have an overflux or other items because it really can decide whether your boss is going to be a fail or a success. After the laser phase ends, I go in and use my Sword of Bad Health, Wand of Atonement, and Atom Split again. Since the Ragnarok Axe is active, I'm able to do a lot of damage, and this helps me get to the next Hitsphase, which is at 140 million health. For this, I continue to hit the boss while keeping my distance, but if you're not really comfortable with doing this, I recommend stepping stepping back and using your Reaper Scythe immediately and let the tank zombies take care of it. If you use your Atom Split ability on the Hitsphase, you're able to do the Hitsphase faster, but if you get hit, you do take a lot of damage. Once the Hitsphase is over, I then swap to my Sword of Bad Health, Wand of Atonement, and Atom Split just like before, and I teleport to the boss and start hitting it. After the Hitsphase, it will start to spawn these beacons called Gang Glyphs, and if you don't walk towards them in 5 seconds, it will kill you instantly. You want to make sure that you're healing at all times, because if you're not hitting the boss, the siphon on your Atom Split isn't going to proc, so you're going to be taking more damage. As the boss goes into the next laser phase at 100 million HP, I step back again, and I repeat the same thing that I did in the first laser phase. The only difference in this laser phase is that the boss will throw, I'm pretty sure, at least one beacon, and you have to make sure they're able to get to the beacon without getting hit by the lasers. After the laser phase is over, I teleport, use my abilities, and start hitting again. I keep DPSing the boss and using my abilities whenever my Wand of Atonement runs out, until the boss goes into the next hits phase at 70 million HP. I do the same thing I did with the last hits phase, and I make sure to use my Wand of Atonement. After this hits phase, the boss does get a lot harder, so you need to make sure that you are on your best game. Before the boss gets out of its hits phase, I use my Sword of Bad Health, and I teleport and use my Atom Split Katana ability because my Wand of Atonement already had a couple seconds left. Then I go back to DPSing the boss and using my abilities just as normal. The difference in this phase is that the boss will start throwing out heads that you have to look at, and at first they don't seem like they do much, but the more heads that are out, the more damage they're going to be doing to you. So you have to make sure you get rid of them as soon as possible by looking at them. It is pretty simple, and you can look at it through the boss and through walls, so you can continue to hit the boss and getting rid of the heads just by angling correctly. At 30 million HP, the boss goes into its final laser phase. Here it will still throw out heads, throw beacons, and have the lasers. And because the heads do constant damage, you're not going to be able to get a Ragnarok axe, so I just prioritize using my Wand of Atonement to make sure I'm at full health for the final part of the boss. Right as the boss gets out of the laser phase, I use all my abilities and I start to DPS the boss again. Now this part is pretty simple, but you want to make sure that you are using all your abilities at the same time, because it is really easy to slip up and have a little lag spike that kills you. So this part does take practice, but eventually I kill it, and that is the end. Alright, and there we go. With that, the boss is complete. That took about 105 seconds, according to Lunar Client, but that usually is a little bit off. But either way, it's about 100 seconds. My kill times range from about 90 seconds to 120, depending on how bad or good I do with like my Ragnarok axe and how well the summons are able to go through the hits phase. But overall, it's about 100 seconds. Note that when I was first getting used to the strategy, it did take a lot of practice, and you have to make sure that you are hotkeying correctly, like I said, and you have to make sure that you're right clicking every time you swap to an item, which does get a bit of used to, but over time, hopefully you will get used to it. If you guys have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below. I try to actively check all my comments, and I will try to reply to as many as possible to try and help as many people as possible. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. See you guys later.